So if we think about this from a pension scheme perspective, and again, we focus on the defined benefit element, then if people access the flexibilities, they're transferring their benefits, their pension benefits, outside of the defined benefit scheme. So that means from a corporate perspective, the assets and the liabilities that are associated with that member transferred out of the scheme. So from a scheme perspective, you're left with a pension scheme that's fundamentally smaller and less risky going forwards than it was before. Often the transfer value terms, well, in most cases, the transfer value terms are set at a level that's lower than the funding reserve that's set in the scheme. So when people transfer, it can lead to deficit reduction in the scheme. And from a corporate perspective, that often leads through to lower cash contributions going into the scheme. Similarly, from an accounting perspective, the accounting reserve is often higher than that transfer value that's paid out. So again, we often see deficit reduction from an accounting perspective, which from a company perspective leads to higher profits going forward. And the really powerful bit is that once we see some experience of higher levels of transfers, you can start to make an assumption about what's going to happen in the future. And it's at that point that the impact becomes really meaningful from a pension scheme perspective. So last year we carried out a survey across our client base in terms of the experience that we've seen since the new freedom and choice regime was introduced. This was across 200 of our clients, so a good cross-section of experience. And across the board, we've seen the level of transfer values increase, but the absolute level still at quite low for the majority of schemes. But what we've seen is two key issues that really have a big impact on the level of take-up rate. So firstly, the way that options are presented to members, so making sure that you present them with information on the transfer value and the benefits that they can get outside of the pension scheme. The second key aspect is really making it easy for people to get the support that they need to make an informed choice. So easy access to an independent financial advisor. And in the cases where people are making those options available and communicating those options to people and making some free independent financial advice available, we've seen on average 30 to 40% of members transferring out of a pension scheme. And at that level, that leads to greater cost and risk reduction from a pension scheme perspective.